Hi everyone, super excited. Today I'm going to interview Jen Marie. So I know you're in the United States and I'm in Australia. So we are like completely, over long distance. This is early in the morning for me and it's night at you. So it's just super
Yes.
cool. So very quick short introduction. So Jen is a licensed therapist turned transformational coach, and we're going to ask her all about what happened that so as I know, she seems to be really cool and really enjoy what she's doing. And I think today's topic is going to help a lot of people who may be wondering what coaching is and how to better take care of themselves, because I know you work with a lot of people who, like my audience, who are women that working hard and usually successful but tend to be burned out or have different things that actually need a bit of helping with. So I'm really excited to talk to you. Hi, Jen.
Hi, I am so honored to be here first and foremost. Thank you so much for welcoming me into your world. And thank you everybody for listening as well. I'm so excited to be here. And you're right, we're completely flip-flopped. So you're waking up and the sun is coming down over here. Everybody's getting ready for bed, but I'm so excited again to be here.
So quickly, like I found your bio so interesting. So first of all, you are seasoned. You have been doing therapy, like you're licensed therapist for over 18 years.
Mhm.
And I love that you said you believe in apologetic self-care,
Mhm.
and you worked in the area like in psychology, criminal justice, and social work.
Mhm.
And you were born to migrants from Cuba, and
Yes.
you're mom of two beautiful miracle babies. So that's really interesting. And I guess for a lot of listener out there or people who watch these videos, so it sounds like, Jen have done some stuff. So tell us, um, first of all, I'm really interested to know what happened, why you changed from being a therapist, which I know that at the end of the day, we all love to help people in the ways that we can.
Yes.
And I know that what you used to do is very meaningful and helpful to others. So, but you have a transition, and a lot of people I'm working with or listening to, tuning in, are people who are in transition, maybe changing from one career or one life stage to
Mhm.
another. So tell me what's going on with your transition, why you moved into the transformational coaching.
So I think it's a beautiful journey, everybody's journey. We're always transitioning from, different stages in our life. So you hit the nail on the head completely. So what happened for me is I love what I do so much and I love helping people, especially women, grow. And I kept seeing the same pattern over and over again. Women burning out, taking on too many things and not delegating, trying to be perfect, taking on role of mom, entrepreneur, businesswoman, wife, everything. And it's a lot. But the transition for me was I love what I do in my training. I can't separate my therapist brain from my life coach brain. But I felt really boxed in. So therapy is very traditional, a lot of rules, no social media, no videos, no Facebook, no Instagram, no pictures, no family talk. So everything is about your patient, which I believe is important because I'm trying to help them. It's not about me. But I also felt like I couldn't be myself. I didn't feel 100% comfortable. So I felt very caged. So my transition in trying not only to reach more people and all over the world, so this is exactly what I aim to do, was to connect with people outside of my office. That's the boxed in feeling. So I'm licensed in 2 states in the United States, in New Jersey and in Florida, where I now live. But again, that limits me. And I hate that feeling. I really not only want to teach everybody that there are no limits to
Mm.
anything that you want to do, because I believe that. And I also don't want to feel limited in being able to help everybody. I want to help people wherever they are. And I don't want to continue to be in 4 walls. So that's where the transition piece came into. So it allows me to be myself and to reach people everywhere.
I find it so interesting. I have to gotta say something here is that I find it so weird that because wisdom, knowledge, these kind of things are completely transferable. You can't say you are in Florida and therefore you can't share with me what you think can really help me while I'm in Sydney, right?
Not as a therapist, but as a
Yes.
life coach, I'm
Yeah.
all yours.
Yeah.
So it's this beauty too of being able to connect with other people.
Yeah. So, okay, that's really awesome. And I have to add another question that I wasn't planning to.
Of
So tell
course.
me a little bit. So kind of like you in a way just a step ahead of your clients or patients, in the sense that you are also like full on working, have kids,
Absolutely.
probably burn out at some point. That's why you want
Absolutely.
help
Well,
these
I think
people. And so tell us a little bit about that. Like, it's like the two miracle babies, and how did that, you know, show me like the way I can understand that your clients may be in that burnout scenario and you can so relate. So tell me a little bit of your story.
I so believe that we try to help people because we connect with them. And that was something else I wasn't able to share with my patients. Oh, I know what you're feeling. Oh, I've been there too. I know what it's like. And I have been. So you're right. We try and we learn and then we try to teach others. I think that's the human way to do things. So absolutely burnout, wanting to be perfect, wanting to be the perfect wife and the perfect mom and the perfect business person and the perfect business owner and the perfect therapist. And it's a lot. Nobody walks you through anything. And the most important thing is that we often don't talk to others about it. A lot of people suffer in silence. And that's what I kept seeing with my patients. And again, the same thing of balancing being a mom. Like nobody, so I have two miracle babies, like I said. We suffered a miscarriage before we had our daughter, and then we went through fertility treatment to have my daughter, and then my son. My son is an IVF baby, so he was frozen for a whole month before he was implanted, and that was the way that we had to have our family. We just had, medical complications on my part and just not healthy eggs. So we took the scientific route, and we have two beautiful babies. And it's the yearning to be a mom, for example, wanting it so badly, and then suddenly being faced with,
then you want to be perfect.
I want to be a mom, but I'm this business owner and I'm this therapist and I'm educated and I went to school to help people and to make money and to have a business. But how do I do that and be a stay-at-home mom? Or how do I do that and balance, not sleeping at night or having a sick baby and then still doing well? And again, it's just figuring it all out. And those are some of the tips that I wanted to share with you and your listeners today, because again, we learn from our journey and hopefully be able to share too.
I love it. And let's dig deeper in that, because, one of the things, I have also a little girl, she's 2.5 almost.
Oh, I have one of those.
We are pretty lucky. Everything was pretty straightforward. But when I was pregnant, I, get into the topic and studying and talk to people. And actually, it's a staggering high statistic on people suffering miscarriage. And the biggest thing is that people actually just don't talk about it. But if you ask all your girlfriends, chances are there are some people actually have experienced it, but they may not have told you. But they may, say something if you ask. And some people may be more open if you're really close. But the statistic is crazy. It's actually really high. I think the source that I read is 1 in 3, and also depends on the age group and your circumstance.
Yes.
But people don't talk about it a lot, and I guess it's really painful, and it's hard to share with just random anybody. But just the fact that if it is such a deep thing, and we hold it so close to ourselves, it is really challenging.
It's huge. And you're right. Nobody talks about it. And remind me to share a book, a resource for you and your listeners too. And so many women suffer in silence because they're either embarrassed to talk about it or in so much pain. Or I remember with my journey, I wanted to honor my child and everybody else was shushing me. If a child dies, if you give birth, then you have a burial and you have a ceremony. But when you have a miscarriage, nobody, unless they're living it, it doesn't count. And to me, I have 3 children. I lost one. So it's really hard and nobody talks about it. And again, that's another topic that it's a shame that most people aren't welcome and open to talk about it because they're almost encouraged not to.
I think in Chinese culture, there's also like something similar, as in you should just forget about it. Like, as in really. Because people don't like something, they try to adopt the approach of let's not talk about it and forget it, pretend it never happened. But then sometimes your wound never really got healed. And I mean, the thing is, bravo to you. You march on, you do the thing that you need to do, and you got 2 beautiful babies. But I'm sure there are people who actually never get over that. Even they may or may not have babies later on. That one was deep, and it's important. And if you don't,
address it.
Address it. It is something just kind of stick with you. And
It's
so
huge.
it is
It is huge. It is huge, and it carries with you. It carries with you whether you have children or not. And it carries, there were some challenges I faced when I was pregnant with my daughter. The fear of, am I going to lose her? Is she going to be healthy? Is she going to be okay? So there's a lot. And again, it's a shame that more people aren't opening up and talking about it because they don't feel comfortable or because they feel so vulnerable. But like you said, once my miscarriage happened, suddenly, family members, oh yeah, that happened to me. And I was just like, where was everybody when all this was going on?
Yeah, I think, this is definitely a really huge topic, and it relates to so many women. So I actually want to get your advice on this. So see, you, after all this heroine journey, now have your 2 babies. So that must be a point where you try to do everything perfect, as you said, right? And there's high anxiety level. There will be hormones flying around. I remember that after my daughter was born, it just said, something is inside you. It's definitely something to do with hormones, and you're super and you're trying to do it all. You want to be a perfect mom. You still want to have some control of your business. You don't want to feel you completely leave the planet. You're still around, and then you want to be a good wife and a good friend. And
yeah, you try to do it all and you can't.
So what did you do? How do you get yourself out of that rabbit hole?
So I actually put together something with many tips for moms, for new moms especially. I'll share with you as well. I think a lot of it is just being cognizant that you can't be perfect, that perfection does not exist, that even in the most beautiful things, there's imperfection, and imperfection is beautiful. Asking for help is huge. So as a mistake, I think as moms, as women, we try to do it all, right? And everything needs to be perfect, and nobody does it as good as we do. And then there's this expectation that if you're the woman, at least where I'm from, if you're the woman, then you are to be the wife, and you are to be the housewife, and you are to be the mom. But then we also take on our businesses as entrepreneurs and our careers. And we keep taking and never taking anything off our plate. So part of that is learning to balance too. So prioritizing, I would say, so you can't do it all, right? Striving for perfection. And another error I think we make is not planning or making time for ourselves. And that's, I think, huge. So my favorite analogy is when you fly, and they always go through all the motions, and they say, if there's ever an emergency, put your mask on yourself before you put it on a child or anybody else elderly. Because the concept is, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't save anybody else. And I think we forget that. So my 3 tips would be to delegate to people, ask for help. Again, something else, we don't like to let go of that sense of, it's too much, I'm overwhelmed. And it's not a weakness. I think it's a strength to be able to verbalize and acknowledge and ask for help. So one of my big tips is, if people offer help, say yes, don't even think about it. And the next thing is just to ask, whether it's friends or family or other people. Some people can even barter, I would say. So a tip from some of my moms is, if you're, carpooling is an example of kind of, exchanging. Or if somebody is a really great cook and somebody else hates to cook, well, hey, I'll cook and I don't mind, and I'll give that to you. And can you drive my kids to, with your kids? So you're not pawning anybody off, but you're finding a way to balance, not doing it all and helping each other. Because my huge thing is collaborating. It doesn't have to be a competition. I think as women, by us going and working together, that's where our strength lies. So that would be
village, raising the kids together.
Yeah, it is a village. It's 2 villages, let me tell you. So it's having that sense of reality check that we don't have to be perfect, and to delegate. And then my 3rd tip would really be to schedule time. And I know as a mom, and I know as a business owner, we always say, yeah, right, when, where, how. And I say, just start with 5 minutes. So I actually started with my people, I started Selfcare Sunday challenge. So I challenge every Sunday for everybody to take 5 minutes, whatever works for you. Take a bath, take a shower, with 5 minutes of silence, which is sometimes really hard for moms to do, or put on a mask, or put makeup on, or go to the gym, it just builds it in. And if you can build in time, like you build in time for appointments or meetings or getting your kids to school, you make it happen, but you have to make that time. And I just feel as a result that we're just better women and better moms and better everything.
I cannot agree with you more. I love your top 3 tips, and just going through your tips, and that really remind me of a few things. The first one, you talk about delegate and ask for help, and I really think that one of the things we need to remind ourselves is that we tend to say, let me do it because you don't do it right, or you're too slow. Like I do that to my husband. When
No, it doesn't matter how it looks.
it's like, oh God, you're gonna take 20 minutes. I just need to take 2. Like silly stuff like that. So delegate, and even though we often think we do it better or we want to do it our way, it's a big thing to learn to let go it, like you said. And I think ask for help, and it's something so practical because people feel uncomfortable ask for help. But when we put in a context, say sometimes we have parties or gathering and it's so overwhelming, it's the best way to connect with people or together, have a meal, have conversation. But then we think about, oh my God, I have to, cook all these foods. So what I do is I always say, everybody bring a dish. So I will have more opportunity to actually invite everyone in because I don't have to cook it all. So like very simple things that once we started the habit to ask for help, then it becomes easier and you find different ways to do that. I don't know, like we got so many. You talk about a carpooling, which is another really good example.
And obviously I don't mean by random people, but like people that your kids are already with anyway. Hey, can you pick them up? I'll make dinner, or I'll pick up a pizza. Can you grab them?
Yeah.
And I tell my moms the same thing with play dates. Make play dates with your neighbors or with friends, and that play date turns into mom time, so you have human time, and then the kids get to play.
Sounds great.
It builds everything in, but it's number one, admitting that we can't do it all. And that doesn't mean that we're weak. And then asking doesn't mean that we're weak either. It's being smart. Yeah. I think that just makes us very bright.
I think so. And when you do that, other people will share their own tips as well. So you're just getting smarter and smarter. And things like that, we all subscribe to like growth mindset where we know that we can always do better. We're not aiming for perfection, but we're aiming for progress, right? So we can always do better with tips and tools that we share among each other. And then when you talk about, the me time, I think is super important. And I think one of the common mistake we have is that we start to think about this me time when we're extremely exhausted. Like it's like, what? That? Like, are you kidding me? Like you feel guilty or whatever. You're just tired to think,
this
right?
This is a daily conversation. Daily. So this is where the unapologetic self-care that you asked about is.
Yes.
So I tell everybody you cannot feel guilty for taking care of yourself because you're going to end up a better person for your family. You're going to be a better mom. Listen, if you take 5 minutes, 30 minutes, which is right and unheard of sometimes, you're going to come out a better person. So I tell people, even if they don't have kids, because I work with, a lot of women, obviously, that chose not to have a family or can't, and that's fine. But my thing for them is when I used to work for somebody else, I said, I refuse not to take my lunch. I'm going to take my lunch. Even if I go sit in my car and nap, or if I go and take a drive and go have some ice cream, or if I go and run an errand, it's my hour. And let me tell you, the hours after for the rest of the day, I was more productive because I took that break. The days that I couldn't or I didn't because I felt like I couldn't, I just wasn't the same. So I believe truly that you're just such a better version of yourself when you make that time. But again, you have to plan it in. You have to schedule it in, whether it's, a yoga class or, a gym. And Mike, I'm not a fan of physical labor of working out. So, but I this weekend I said, hey, hon, I'm going to go to the community center. We have a gym. He said, okay, watch the kids, put on a movie. I'm going to go. And I did. And I went for an hour and I felt so much better when I got back for myself, for them. You're more patient. You feel more alert. You feel like you had time for yourself and you just are. It's not running thin. It's not overfilling your plate. It's figuring out what can be moved. And if you delegate, which is one of my tips and tricks, if you learn what to delegate, you can make the time to do the things that you need to do for yourself.
And there's so many things I want to say here. Like, okay, one of the things is very nerdy, but I'm going to start with one of the things I really appreciate what you said about, you gotta be a human, like be who you are by having that me time, and about being a better person. Because I normally have my me time early in the morning because it's easiest and I have a clear head, so I can plan my work, but also have a bit of me time doing my things, right? So, and so many times it's in those moments I realize, what I said to my husband yesterday wasn't right. As in, I accuse him of something, but it's because I felt guilty about something else. So I said, no, you're wrong. And I tell him all this reason with a really good like speech, technique. So it sounded really good, but actually he was right and I was in the wrong. But when you are upset, when you're spinning like this, sometimes you just you just being yourself, your normal self, and then sometimes it's not always right. Then it was those moments like what you said about the me time. I became a better person because it came to my mind. It's like, that was me being shitty. And I told him, I'm sorry, darling, yesterday I said this to you, but actually you were the right one. And I think that's important. If I didn't have that me time, I wouldn't have those moments. I would have never
of clarity,
thought
those
about
moments
it
of clarity.
and told him that. And also because of the clarity, I have the courage as well to say to him, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
And because we are striving to be a better person. And so, that came up for me. And I think that is exactly what you said about being a better person. And if you don't have that moment to yourself, you don't have
that
those,
clarity.
Yeah, you don't have that clarity. And the other thing I want to say is slightly nerdy, and it's about collaboration. So science has shown, like through different research, that if you throw a bunch of people in a room and ask them to collaborate, it doesn't kind of work. So that related to your delegate, kind of asking for help. So say you need to give people instruction, if not scaffolding the instruction.
Oh my goodness. So
you have to tell your husband, I'm going away for 2 hours. Like, here's this snack. Maybe you could use this. Here's a DVD. You may want to do this. You have to give instructions. So people then, the kids and the dad can collaborate and work out like a team. But we can't throw people in a room and just say, do it. And
do it. No,
it's not helpful.
Huge. So huge. My work with couples. I know you had a lot of questions about that. But so my big thing with that is men, I love you men, no biased opinion. They do not read between the lines. There is an issue. They want to know how to fix it. If you don't tell them what you need, what you want specifically, it's not going to happen. So this is a huge conversation I have with all the women I work with when they're talking about their relationships and they're so frustrated. And the word that you're looking for, my friend, is you were resentful. You were so resentful probably because you didn't get to do something you wanted to do, or you felt that you couldn't have done it, right? And you were blaming somebody else, blaming your husband. But I tell them that's part of, again, you lose that resentment when you make time for yourself. And if you communicate specifically, listen, I want to find an hour for myself this weekend to work out, to go to do yoga, to do nothing, to take a nap. But you have to tell people exactly what you want. You just can't say, I'm so overwhelmed or I'm so tired. People don't move with that. People need direction. So you are 100% right. That's 80% of the conversation and communication I have with the couples I work with is you need to talk to one another. Nobody's going to know. Huge.
Oh, did you read between the line thing? May I just
No, they don't read between the lines.
I am Chinese and my husband is French. So English is actually not our first language. So can you actually add another dimension? That's an
added layer, yes. And then I also speak a second language. So we think in a different language. We produce, and sometimes there's also the missing each other and what we're trying to say. So I imagine that's an extra layer of things.
And then you throw in one being introvert. How does that sound?
Oh no.
So this is just a bit funny, but I definitely agree that communication is key. And good thing is that I'm quite verbal, and so actually I'm overly talkative, if you haven't noticed. So the fact that my husband is a bit more introverted, it's okay because I come and say
you balance it out, right?
No, but I get it that he may need a little bit of warming up or invitation to voice his opinion. So I will, I get it, I understand him. So I will, make it comfortable for him to share his feelings or opinion, or use multiple choice.
Yes, I love it. Yes.
Feeling annoyed with me, or you just be tired and be quiet. Like
yes. Or all of the above.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to ask you, because it just came up when we talk about the couples thing. Do you think men also need to have me time, or do they just do it unconscious and therefore it doesn't have to be even talk about? Like, how for us women, we actually tell each other that he needs some me time. So what about guys?
I think it depends on personality. So I think that men usually just do it, like you said, on their own. But I have worked and come across with a lot of men who also, it's not just a woman's world when it comes to overwhelm. There are a lot of dads or husbands or men that really don't make time because they're also overachievers or they're, very focused. So it's also a personality thing. I think just women overall seem to be more nurturing overall. So I see it more with women, but absolutely, I think men just kind of build it in already without noticing it on autopilot. But there are a few men that really also need to follow the tips insofar as scheduling it in.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, that's just to be fair, isn't it? And sometimes I need to, I know that for my husband, he likes to go mountain biking, but it doesn't always work out. It depends on the family schedule, but also the weather. So now when you talk about it, I think, when he gets grumpy, I should tell him you should do some me time thing, think about something you can do without a bicycle.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's huge. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now another thing I want to ask you is that with all the people you see from all your experience, what are the top 3 sort of common challenges people are facing? So when we say it, they may go like, aha, yeah, that's me. And therefore, could be some sort of simple solution that can help them? So, because I know that you mentioned a lot of people come and see you are burnout, overwhelmed, but yet successful women. So, what are the common things they would come and tell you? And then maybe that would be helpful for others to know.
They're overwhelmed, right? They're burned out. There's no time for themselves. They don't feel valued, and they don't feel heard or seen. So those are 3 big things. And then the work in that is really, again, aligned with everything we shared, but it comes to self-confidence. I believe oftentimes I feel that we may be confident in certain areas of our lives, but again, for most women or for anybody to admit that we're overwhelmed can mean a weakness, can symbolize a weakness, and it's not. So it's building the confidence to, if you don't feel seen or feel heard, what's going on that's in place that is allowing that dynamic to occur. So are you getting in your own way? Are you taking things on, which is something I see a lot? I'll do it. I'll take it on. I can help with that. Instead of, if your plate is full, we'll leave it there. Don't take on new projects if you're already feeling overwhelmed, and learning to say no. People feel guilty saying no. No, I don't have the time. No, I cannot. No, I just don't. I don't have the extra energy. So I think not taking on new things, learning how to say no, and really building the confidence to speak up, and be seen and be heard, because that's a huge frustration, but it's learning how to move out of your way and verbalize and be confident enough to speak up, like you said, and to really say, hey, I need help, or this is not okay, or I don't feel valued. And that's a common theme.
And how I can hear it's a vicious circle that you get so overwhelmed, and then you feel like you're not seen or heard, you're resentful, but then you want to be seen and heard. So you put up your hand and more projects.
Yes.
You think that will get you more seen and heard, but then it doesn't. So
because then we go back to the quality. We go back to the being resentful, not being your best, because you're also not making the time for yourself because you're so burdened, right, with everything you took on. It seems very simple sometimes to say out loud, but I just say, just pick one thing. Pick one thing and start there. So make a change. You have to make a change. If you continue to burn out, you're in a pattern. So figure out what your pattern is and learn how to break it. And it doesn't have to be anything miraculous. And a lot of people say, well, I just can't. What am I supposed to stop being a mom or stop being a wife or stop my business? And no, it's not extreme, but figure out, how are you taking on too much, not saying no, not feeling heard, not speaking up when you don't feel heard. It's not about taking on more. It's about being clear on what you need and what you want, and then clearly communicating that to somebody else.
Do you find it's like some people are feeling not seen and heard in relationships at home, but they're okay at work? Or actually it's a common theme that if they're not seen and heard and like that at home, it tends to also be at work? I mean, I don't know, is there any relevance?
It can definitely translate. What you often see is that if somebody's not happy in one area, they overfunction in the other.
Oh, so if I have a terrible family life, I'm just trying to get my rewards, my recognition at work
or school, or vice versa. If I'm not good at work, then I try to really make it count at home or in my relationships. So the key is trying to be balanced and trying, in a realistic way to be happy in both places. But again, it's without sacrificing yourself. And that goes back to the transition. No matter what transition or stage you are in your life, figuring out what you need at that moment, because that changes too.
Mm. And I think that this is a hard part because there's a lot of like, so when I talk about my last book, it's about goddess archetypes. And one of the archetypes is Athena, which is headstrong, strategy, really wise, smart, and, you know, kind of like the bring women. But then when you get older, you have different needs. And sometimes it felt strange and uncomfortable when it's like, I don't want to be the leader anymore. I don't want to do that thing about recognition, about winning, whatever that is anymore. I want to go to something more inward focused or altruistic or, you know, something more focused on my feelings and my body. And they feel so uncomfortable because they're so used to a particular archetype that's been active in them and they're going through a transition. And that kind of like, oh, what's happening? I'm no longer myself, without knowing you're growing into a more mature self. So I definitely see like when people in transition, they will feel like, oh, that's foreign, that's new. And it kind of like sort of need a therapist or a coach to help them to feel that's okay, you know, going through a transition.
Yes, that transitions are my favorite thing in the world, because while everybody struggles and feels uncomfortable, that's when I say, oh my goodness, you are a beautiful butterfly about to come out. That is my favorite thing, because with the right nurturing and with the right support, that's when people can truly reach their full potential, because there's so many chapters in life. There's so many moments where you're not going to be the same because you do have different needs. But as long as you're true to yourself and you're honest and clear on what you want, the sky's the limit. I really believe that.
Yeah. And it sometimes take courage to accept that, you know, I no longer want to be a CEO. I no longer want to
That's okay.
make 6 or 7 figures. I just want to, you know, stay in the country and learn how to grow my vegetable garden. And this is hard for people to think, oh my God, that's what I want now. What will think of me? Will people think that I'm losing my mind?
There goes the self-confidence piece, is letting go of what other people think of you and to honor yourself and be confident enough to know what you need and what you want for you. And that's the difference, because it is, I bet you if you found a fisherman, you know, who truly loved to fish, that person is more content than any CEO on Wall Street or any other big owner of any big company, because you just need to feel comfortable doing what you love. And if you don't love what you do, then you're never, ever going to embrace it and live it, because that's the difference between work and life. You have to really, it has to be meshed in one. It has to be intertwined. You have to love what you do, because you're going to be living and breathing it. And to not value what you're doing, or not being happy in a relationship, or not being happy in a transition, is to dim your light, essentially. And you're not going to give 100%. You're not going to be 100% because you're not going to be content.
And I think having like conversation, like what you like things, if you can say things what Jen is saying, and you can have an internal dialogue, it's like this clear and this strong and this independent, I think you'll be ready to talk to people and tell them what you want to become or what you want to change. Because I do think that internal dialogue, like what you just said, if you're not comfortable with that idea inside yourself, it's still simmering, it hasn't really settled in. When you're not confident, when you don't have this internal dialogue that you're confident and sure what you want to say to yourself and others, don't tell people so soon because you're not ready. But once you have that dialogue clear with emotion, then I think it's important to share to others, because then it reaffirm what you were saying.
But you're touching something beautiful, because in addition to that insecurity of that feeling of change, of wanting something more, you also have to be and surround yourself with people that are supportive of you. So you know how you said, well, what will people think? I'm crazy? Not if you value the people around you and the people around you truly value you. Because if you're happy, they're happy. Meaning you can't look for feedback in places that are not going to give you good feedback that you need for yourself. So it's also being very careful and choosing wisely who you keep around you, because you don't want, my favorite term is an emotional vampire, somebody who's going to criticize you or put you down when you're trying to grow. You know, it's like a baby. You know, can you imagine your child learning how to walk, and every time they fall, oh, here you go again, you're falling. oh, why are you even bothering walking? You just know you're going to fall again. We don't realize as humans, as adults, we do that either to others or to ourselves. Why do I even bother? It never comes through. It's that internal dialogue. And that is very powerful. So a lot of that is realizing what part of you exists that has that negative self-talk, that negative internal dialogue, and not to feed it. My whole line is we already, somewhere along the line in our lives, it was tapped in, there was planted. So let's not feed that negative. Let's start feeding the positive. So one of the tips I also share in the work that I do is learning how to flip negative images, thoughts that we give ourselves reflection, and flip it. So what's a positive thing? Where in there is that, number one, is that true? Is what whoever said or whatever you're telling yourself true? And number two, where is there value in that? And how can we shift that thinking? So, oh, I'm a horrible artist. No, I'm less creative than other people, but I'm a really good organizer. It's looking at the positives in things.
And I love what you just said, and I think it's really helpful for a lot of people who may have that internal struggle. And then, if the people you surround yourself aren't supportive, you need to think about it again. But then it became another question for me. What about family? So let's say, yep, I got this. These are great friends I'm going to hang out with. This I'm going to move away because I know we no longer
have your answer.
Oh, so with family?
I have your answer. We don't get to choose our family, right? Mm-hmm. So what I tell even my couples is if you're not going to get positive feedback from somebody, whether it's your boss or a family member, then don't tell that person. If nothing good is going to come from that person, nothing supportive, nothing insightful, and they're going to discourage you, we don't have to share all the details with that person. So we're not lying. But if you have an aunt, right, who's just thinking that everything that you do is just out there and this is just not balanced and you should just stick to whatever profession you chose, that's not the best person to go to talk about your brand new idea that you're so excited about. So we can't choose our family, but we can choose what we share with people. And if they're not going to provide us positive nurture, then we don't go to that person looking for nurturing. That won't be our sounding board.
Yeah, don't go to hardware store for milk, right?
Not at all.
I mean, you got so many great tips for us, and I'm sure people who may be bubbling and thinking, wow, that sounds really good. I want to hear more. So definitely please share with me after this the link of some of the tips that you said you can share with us. So maybe I can post a link for people who are interested. But also tell us, how can we find you and work with you? Maybe you got a website or something.
Yes, I would be honored. So my website is janmarietlc.com. So it's a play on words of tender loving care and transformational life coach. So to plug it in there, there's a lot of tips in there. Self-care. I host events in different places. I do some work. I work a lot with individuals online, as we're doing today. And I love connecting with new women all around the world. So I would love to connect. And I actually just put together an online course. There is a self-paced one, and I'm going to be running a live version in September. And I wanted to offer you, all your guests and all your listeners, if they choose to go ahead and that with purchasing that I would offer them an additional 1 hour of free coaching as part of that. Just being your guest as a gift.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. But there are a lot of tips. I have tips for moms, for new moms, a lot of things like we talked about that people don't say. I also put together 5 strategic steps to creating a life you love, which again is a lot of what we talked about, but it's very conscious, reflective steps to do so. And that's essentially what the whole program is all of my years of therapy put together on a self-paced level, because so many women and so many moms don't have time. So I created it where they're little snippets. You can listen to it in the car. I've done a lot of my stuff while I'm doing dishes or errands around my house. And then there's a lot of really transformational, life-shifting activity that's based on all of the assignments that I give my patients. So again, everything on the website, all the tips are there. So I'm happy to share.
Fantastic. So if people want to get the tips or sign up for your course, they just come to janmarietlc.com.
Perfect. All the information's there, correct.
Thank you so much for today. I really enjoy our chat. And then you are winding down to bed while I'm starting my day.
I thank you so much. And I thank you as I'm winding mine down. It's been amazing. And I'm so honored again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.